Well, there's a lot of simple answer to it all, and then there's a complex answer to it all, and then, of course, there's no answer to it. I'd rather talk about the no answer. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
My Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com. It's the only company I trust to protect my wealth. Call 800-BUI-COIN. Can you imagine a human mind capable of creating such phenomenal music? And we're sitting here down on our earth watching idiots run around with knapsacks, attacking police, burning cities. And we're supposed to believe that we're living in ascended times. We're supposed to believe we're living in progressive times. We're supposed to believe that we're living in times that are advanced. I would argue the opposite. My contemporary insights would tell me something else. And I tried to tell you this whole argument of gay marriage, for one moment, just remove the word gay in marriage from what I'm about to say and go back to my analogy of Jacob's ladder, because I want to do the mystical thing for 1 minute. What is Jacob's ladder? Sulam Yaakov is a staircase to heaven that the biblical patriarch Jacob dreams about during his flight from his brother Esau. It is described in the book of Genesis. He dreamed. He lay his head on a rock, if you read Genesis, and he put the rock under his head, and he dreamed of a staircase to heaven. And he woke up, and there was a ladder set up on the earth. And the top of it reached to heaven, and behold, the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. Now, Christians believe Jesus is the staircase to heaven. Muslims believe in this concept of a staircase to heaven. Islam, in fact, in legitimate Islam, before the maniacs stole the religion, Jacob is revered in Islam as a prophet and patriarch. And legitimate Muslim scholars draw a parallel with Jacob's vision of the ladder in Muhammad's event of Miraj. So what am I trying to say to you is that for 1 minute, change your view of everything and understand we just take the metaphor of Jacob's ladder, a staircase to heaven. And the mystics would argue, for example, that if you change the order of the rungs, you can destroy everything. If you pervert or confuse the rungs on Jacob's ladder, all of our troubles can be seen for what they are. And they give an example. They say peace, for example, so high an ideal on our rung of values, may, if it is placed too high on the ladder, become evil, as when Aaron wanted peace above all and gave the people their idols. But now let's take Obama and Kerry. They want peace with Iran above all, so they put the rung of peace at the top of the ladder to heaven, right? And what will we get as a result? Will we get peace with Iran? No. I'm proving to you once again that the Kabbalah or Jewish mysticism has the answer. The fragrance of Eden in Obama's mind is to be had with anything to do with Iran. He smells Eden. You say Iran, he smells Eden. And so he places the rung of peace above all on his ladder. And what do you think will happen? This confusion by Obama and Kerry will not give us peace. It will give us the opposite of peace. Now let's take it back down to gay marriage. You think that by redefining marriage, we are going to have the fragrance of Eden here on earth? The opposite will occur. And I don't want to embroider on my statement. I want to leave it exactly at that point. I'll let you interpret what I just said. This is Michael Savage. I hope you've enjoyed the hour.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage. Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of unprotected talk, borders, language, culture. And here he is, Michael Savage.
Well, here we are, 50 years after the 60s, where we were taught to eliminate all repression, to let it all hang out. If it feels good, do it. Why not do it in the road? So let's go back to the biblical injunction, quote, hide thyself not from thine own flesh. What does that mean? Hide thyself not from thine own flesh. It's a commandment to stop denying your own body pleasure. Did you know that? And so then people say, all right, well, I'll enjoy pleasure. Companionship of a wife, companionship of a husband. When some people lose a wife or a husband, they die themselves because they become only half a person. So it's a sacred institution. We've known of these cases of a man and a woman married for many years. One of them dies, the other dies within days or weeks. And because they became one. And that is a beautiful story. And that's a story that has carried mankind on the ship of life from the beginning of recorded history. And now we sit where people want to change this simple definition of reality. And they want to change reality itself. And that's what we're talking about. Reality itself. Can you actually say there's a thing called gay marriage? Is that reality? Well, it's the reality of some people, but it's not the reality of most of the world through recorded history. Say, well, all right, time to change recorded history. Time to change your reality. We may be 1%, but we want to tell you what reality is. And so although you think of marriage, you think of a wedding and a woman in a white dress and a man in a tuxedo, it could be to us 2 men in tuxedos or 2 women in 2 dresses, or 2 women in tuxedos or 2 men in 2 dresses. In other words, we want to shake it all up. We want our view of the world to be your view of the world. Now, we live in an open society. We don't live in Iran. And as a result, people can do what they want. That's a good thing. And yet at a certain point, freedom becomes slavery. Orwell wrote that. The more I hear people screaming, I am free, I am free, I am free, the more I hear their chains rattling. So that opens up the discussion of gay marriage. Don't think it's as simple as you may think. The arguments before the Supreme Court are strictly legalistic. But there are other dimensions to this subject, which is what I want to get into now. And these dimensions include the mystical, the spiritual, and the religious, because there are other dimensions to this discussion. Do you understand what I'm saying? We're trying to give you a different perspective on things. I'm trying to open the mind, open up the heart, open up the mind, open up the heart to the bigger picture on this. And it's an insight of my own based upon the insights of others. And we're talking about the hidden wisdom of this discussion, if there is any wisdom in it. And I brought up Jacob's Ladder in the last hour and the Stairway to Heaven in the last hour. And I was talking about how the Jewish mystics teach that one of the great confusions on earth is when people take the myth or the thought of Jacob's Ladder and they mix up the rungs on the ladder and they put the rungs of the ladder in the wrong order. And as a result, the opposite happens from what you wish to occur. And so the gay community, the radical gay community in particular, wishes to live in Eden. And they believe that if they can redefine marriage, the fragrance of Eden will become Eden itself. If only they can get straight society to redefine marriage itself, they will all be in Eden. We all know that that's not true. There is no Eden on earth. But so therefore, all of society is now being shaken to its core by this issue of gay marriage. The religious people in particular, most people don't care about it, incidentally. You take the average person, the intelligent person, what do they care? They'll say, you know, I don't really care whether gays get married. How is it going to affect me? That's the modern view. The average 35-year-old person who's not stupid, they have children maybe, married themselves. They could care less whether gays are allowed to get married. They say, how will it affect me? How will it affect me, they ask. It won't affect me. I'm straight. I don't care. It's not going to make me gay. It's not going to affect me or my children. Why should I care? That's the average opinion. The religious people say that they'd rather die than perform a gay marriage because it violates everything they believe in. That's the religious Christians now are standing up saying they will commit to civil disobedience if the justices come down on this in the wrong way for them. And the other side says they will do the same. Of course, so there it is. We, the people talking about gay marriage today, have all these issues to discuss. I don't expect you to change your opinion as a result of my discussion, my leading this discussion. But maybe it will, maybe it won't. My position was stated yesterday, and I'll repeat it again today. And my position is simple, which is I'm a sexual libertarian. I sincerely mean that. I don't care what you do to stimulate your pleasure without being vulgar about it. That's your business. Life is very complicated. Life is horrendously difficult for most of us. And if you get a little pleasure, whatever you have to do, without hurting anybody or without hurting yourself, good luck to you. That's your business. However, I draw the line with children, and I believe that redefining marriage as anything but a marriage between a man and a woman confuses our children. I didn't say that the children in gay marriages suffer. I didn't say that children in gay marriages can't be brought up equal to, if not better than, some straight marriages. I never said that. But I believe you have a child who's growing up, who's 3, 4, 5 years old, and he sees a man and a woman on an altar. He understands what it is. He understands what he is expected or she is expected to do, to go forward as a human being in a civilized society, to procreate and bring forth new life. It's as simple as that. How hard is that? Now confuse the child and show the child 2 men on an altar being married. Now confuse the child and show him 2 women. I didn't say the women are evil. I didn't say the men are evil. Don't misinterpret me. I'm talking from the viewpoint of the innocent child. Try to understand what I'm saying to you. The innocent, beautiful child. The innocent, beautiful child. That's what I'm talking about. So I've said an awful lot. Hide thyself not from thine own flesh is how I started. And we talked about Jacob's ladder in the last hour. There's a lot to talk about. And if you care to join the conversation, 855-400-7282. Do you remember what it's like to be a child? Artists can understand that. And I want to go back to Greek philosophy for a minute on that. Just for a minute. Indulge me. Plato thought that all poetry and music and art and even holy yearnings come from, quote, the song of our soul, from that place which is the treasure house of everything. And what does he mean by that? Again, you have to look into the mystical statement, a mystical meaning of that. It means the same thing that Oscar Wilde meant when he talked about his garden where, quote, every blade of grass, every plant, every flower sings its song. Have you ever felt that? Some of you have when you were children. Some of you felt it when you were on LSD or on mescaline or high on pot. I mean, let's be real. That's many people indulge in drugs in order to be a child again, where they get so wrapped up in a single blade of grass that they actually do return themselves to that simplicity, which I'm not arguing for the use of drugs. I hate them, by the way, because I think it messes up the mind of a Stradivarius. If you have the mind of a banjo, fine, go use LSD. But if you're blessed with a Stradivarius mind, you don't need to plunk the strings until they're discordant. So we go back to the child again. And we go back to the biblical and Talmudic imagery of angels as children. Angels are children. And what does it say? For the child knows how to be amazed. Everything in him is new. The sky, the sun, the stars, mother, father, the doll. He participates in the biblical statement, which is, and God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. And then what happens to us when we're adults? We see no mystery. We see no freshness. It's all gone. We've clouded over the freshness that we saw as a child with book learning, names, categories, society, fears, and the inner worlds, the inner wonder is buried. And you can't achieve what the mystics call the upper whiteness, that primal openness that children understand. So what does this have to do with tearing apart the institution of marriage? What does it do to our children? We're all so selfish that we talk only about our needs. But what about the children? Is this good for the children to see this? Think about what I just said to you in the context in which I presented it. It was far beyond the black and the white. I took you into other areas. I gave you a rainbow view. And I'll be back in a few minutes to pick up your calls right here on the Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
My Savage